While the entire elixir city was in an uproar, and Elder Sevlin and the others were discussing Jason becoming a core disciple, Jason himself returned to his villa and locked himself in the training room alone. Today's elixir showdown with Paltero benefited him a lot and gave him a lot of inspiration and gains. In the past, when Jason prepared the 7th level Imperial elixir, he relied on the technical spirit medicine of his previous life. However, this time, he only used the technical spirit medicine to observe certain key places, but the entire preparation was most of the process involved knowledge of spiritual consciousness, spiritual medicine, and Avogadro's law. For him, it was a rare improvement. In particular, the evolution of the Emperor's Potion gave Jason a deeper understanding of elixirs in some aspects. With Jason's rapid progress as a spiritual master, Jason is also slowly growing in spiritual medicine. Although he has never been able to break through the level of technical spiritual medicine, he has made great progress compared to his previous life. If Jason in his previous life was a master of swordsmanship who had practiced to the extreme in one aspect, then in this life, Jason has developed in all aspects. Although on the surface, Jason's strength seems to be lacking. There are no particularly obvious changes because of these, but it will be very helpful for future development and achievements. In his previous life, Jason, due to his innate shortcomings, no matter how hard he tried, he could only reach the level of a 9th level elixir master. It was almost impossible to go further. However, in this life, Jason is constantly improving. Lay a solid foundation and move towards higher ground step by step. Jason, who returned to his room, was completely immersed in insights. Because of his level, there were still many things that he didn't know clearly when communicating with Master Ballandain, Master Benjamin, and Master What. But now, those unclear points seemed to suddenly become clear, and all the principles were integrated, giving him a feeling of enlightenment. In this way, Jason was completely immersed in the realization. This realization lasted for a whole day. It was not until noon the next day that Jason opened his eyes and exhaled a long breath. There was a glimmer of joy in his eyes. The insights he had gained throughout the day were very rewarding for him. If a day ago he had relied on 3 aspects of spiritual consciousness medicine, Avogadro's law and technical medicine to prepare the Emperor's Potion, now Jason has completely abandoned Avogadro. In terms of laws and techniques, the spirit consciousness medicine and the spirit consciousness medicine alone are completely capable of formulating a 7th level mid-grade imperial level spirit medicine that matches your own level. From then on, like all the elixir masters on the mainland, he finally became a 7th level intermediate elixir master in the field of spiritual consciousness flow elixir medicine. Jason, who had been sitting in the room for a day, did not walk out of the room after fully realizing it. Instead, he waved his hand, and a jade box with red light suddenly appeared on his left hand. It was what he got from the leader of the Dark Knight organization. Yes, the red dragon crystal jade box that my family's ancestors gave to Queen Orlando. Now that I have advanced to the 7th level of the intermediate Emperor Spirit Master, I think I should be able to open the 7th level of restrictions on this jade box. Jason held the red dragon crystal jade box and stared at the red dragon crystal. The 9 swimming dragons murmured in their mouths. When Jason participated in the Continental Elite Tournament and joined the Spiritual Medicine Master Tower, the main purpose was to improve his strength, advance to the 7th level Imperial Spiritualist, and then open the 7th level restriction of the red dragon crystal jade and box. Now that he has grown into a 7th level intermediate Imperial Spiritual Master, it is time to open the 7th level of the jade box. Thinking of this, Jason immediately used his spiritual consciousness to slowly penetrate into the 7th level restriction of the jade box. At first, his 6th level advanced spiritual consciousness was completely blocked by the restriction outside. This time it was blocked by the 7th level restriction. His spiritual consciousness suddenly broke through. Boom! Jason's consciousness suddenly fell into a restricted state. What appeared in his perception was a red swimming dragon containing terrifying energy. As it wandered, it continuously outlined unique road conditions that had long been solved. Jason, who had passed the 6 restrictions in front of him, was naturally well prepared. The route outlined by the wandering dragon looked chaotic, but in fact it had its own unique mystery. As long as an elixir master had the ability to prepare 7th-level imperial elixirs, it can be completely cracked. Immediately, Jason's entire consciousness was completely immersed in the restriction, and he slowly cracked the restriction. However, although this restriction was not difficult for Jason, a master of elixirs, it was quite troublesome. To completely break it, it would be difficult. It still takes some time. It took Jason 3 days to crack the first restriction, and the next 5 restrictions took him a full 3 months. Now, although Jason's attainments in elixirs are relatively high, there was a complete improvement more than a few years ago, but the level of the ban is also increasing, and the difficulty is also becoming greater. Time flies, and time flies by. Jason is completely immersed in cracking the restriction, and is completely indifferent to the heated discussions about him from the outside world. 20 days later, Jason finally broke through the 7th level of restrictions. As the connection between the 7th dragon on the red dragon crystal and the spiritual pattern was cut off, an inexplicable force instantly flowed out of the red dragon crystal jade box and then entered Jason's body. This power is so mysterious, it is not a real power, but as soon as it enters Jason's body, the blood all over Jason's body boils. Waves of heat continued to rise from Jason's body surface, and the skin all over his body instantly became extremely red. However, Jason did not have the slightest worry in his heart, because he knew that the blood concentration in his body was being continuously refined. He had already cracked the 6 restrictions, so he was well prepared for this. The whole process took about an hour to end. The experienced Jason immediately sat down cross-legged and felt the changes in the blood in his body. An hour passed quickly, and something surprising happened to Jason. Originally, at this time, the bloodline should have been completely refined and everything returned to normal, but this time, it seemed a little different. The boiling bloodline did not seem to be there. Stop the trend. What's going on? Jason couldn't help but have a doubt in his heart, but before he could stop his doubts, suddenly, an invisible strange energy suddenly burst out from the blood in his body, as if it had been suppressed. The giant beast that had been standing there for a long time suddenly rushed into his body. Jason, who was sitting there confidently, suddenly changed his expression and became ferocious. Ah! Jason gritted his teeth and hissed in a low voice. Boom! An extremely fierce will came and merged directly into the sky above the spiritual seat in Jason's mind. Generally, if it is an offensive mental power or soul power, Jason's spiritual seat will definitely react, but this will basically cause a change in Jason's mind, and quietly combined with his own spirit and soul. Together. In an instant, Jason felt like he was floating, standing tall and proud in the sky, overlooking the entire continent, feeling all the creatures on the continent, accepting his worship, as if he was the master of the continent. All creatures on the entire continent are his subjects, and must not surrender before him. In his previous life, Jason was the #1 person in the continent and stood at the pinnacle of the continent, enjoying the admiration of hundreds of millions of people. However, the feeling now is completely different from that in his previous life. The feeling in the previous life. Although Jason had a noble status, even Alexander the Great of the Lingdo Empire had to be respectful in front of him, but that was just a difference in status after all. But this feeling now, it feels like all living beings on the continent. In his eyes are like crickets and ants, even if they are all wiped out, there will be no regret at all. An inexplicable domineering force suddenly emerged from his body, and his whole temperament instantly became extremely arrogant, domineering, and perverse. What's going on? This kind of will, this kind of feeling, Jason was completely confused and shocked, but at this moment, boom. Jason felt his blood completely burning, and then every cell also burned. It burned and emitted amazing energy. Jason's body trembled involuntarily. Jason's facial muscles were involuntarily pumping, and his body was convulsing. Fine drops of blood oozed from the pores all over his body, and then evaporated instantly, turning into a thin layer of blood. Pain. Pain beyond the limit. Jason's whole body was in incredible pain, and it felt like his whole body was about to explode. Jason desperately wanted to stop it, but there was no way. Severe pain spread from all parts of Jason's body. The cells in his body seemed to be burning and then shattering. Jason raised his head in pain and screamed silently, and the skin on his body continued to squirm, like waves, undulating like fine and dense scales. This inhuman pain caused Jason's painful veins to pop out, and his expression was hideous and terrifying. The robe on his body has been torn into rags, but the skin of the strong body looming under the rags is faintly white. The whole process lasted for about half an hour. Finally, Jason felt that his boiling blood had finally cooled down, and the severe pain disappeared quickly. Jason exhaled slowly, with a look on his face. He looked horrified with lingering fear, his forehead was covered with sweat, and his whole body was covered in blood and sweat. Finally got over it. What happened to the bloodline improvement this time? Jason calmed down and ignored the dirty body. Instead, he frowned and sensed the changes in his body. Everything in his body was the same as before. No matter how he felt it, even from the appearance, there was no change at all compared to before absorbing the energy in the red dragon crystal. Before, he was in severe pain and his cells were burning. It seems like it never happened. Whether it is the spiritual power or physical strength in the body, it is the same as before, without any change. The only thing that has changed is the blood in his body, which seems to have some unknown subtle changes. It shouldn't be. Sensing this situation, Jason's brows couldn't help but frown slightly. This change in the blood, Jason naturally understood in his heart, should be the same as the 6 restrictions before absorbing it. The concentration of the blood has increased. However, when absorbing this special power in the past, only the blood would be burned and purified, but not at all. It won't be so painful. With such a huge difference in his body before, Jason didn't believe that his body would not change at all. But no matter how he sensed it, he, a master of elixirs who should have a deep understanding of the body, could not find any changes in the body. Test it. Jason looked into the distance. Spiritual consciousness. Buzz. An invisible ripple suddenly spread out from Jason's mind, covering the entire villa in an instant, and he could sense the details in the villa. Everything in the whole villa was clearly reflected in his mind in an instant. Even the slightest change was projected in his mind with great detail. Jason couldn't detect the changes by just sensing, so he immediately adopted the simplest method to observe the changes in his body. No difference. Permeability, flexibility, toughness, sensory delicacy, and intensity. My spiritual consciousness is no different from before. It is still at the 7th level intermediate level, and the soul strength has not changed. It is still the soul at the peak of the 9th level holy level. Jason shook his head, and the tyrannical spiritual consciousness wreaked havoc throughout the villa, and then he slowly took it back into his body. The spiritual consciousness has not changed, but what about the spiritual power? Jason slowly stretched out his right hand. Boom. A force of 5 elements suddenly rose up from Jason's body. The 5 elements of spiritual power around the entire villa became violent at this moment. The tyrannical spiritual power spread out with astonishing pressure. The 5 color under Jason's control, the spiritual power continued to change its shape, becoming extremely magnificent and making a rumbling sound. There is no change, and there is no change in the spiritual power, whether it is strength, permeability, flexibility, or 7th level intermediate spiritual power. There is no change at all from before. Jason's brows furrowed deeper, and the confusion in his eyes was clear. There is no change in spiritual consciousness and spiritual power. Could it be a change in the physical body itself? Jason frowned and punched out suddenly and casually. Boom. After punching out, the high-pressure shock wave formed by the fist directly caused the air to explode. The terrifying air wave hit the wall of the training room, making a huge sound. The explosion echoed throughout the room. No change? Or the physical strength of the 8th level peak, this is impossible? Jason's eyes narrowed, and the skin of his entire body trembled slightly like waves. All the strength of the muscles and bones in his body was instantly transferred to the fist at the end of his right hand. Boom! Following the trend, Jason suddenly burst out with all his strength, and his fist hit the air, causing a sharp explosion. I feel it, I feel it. It's my cells, deep inside my cells, something has changed. There was a hint of surprise in Jason's eyes. He finally felt the change in his body, and he was extremely excited. This is the improvement of cells, the change of the body's essence, and the leap of life. As a master of elixirs, Jason naturally knew what this change represented, which was a change in the spiritual master's essential talent. In fact, when every spiritual master breaks through the level and advances to the 4th level heavenly spiritual master, his cells will undergo a jump. In layman's terms, it is the washing of hair and marrow. However, this is the lowest level. What changes is only the physique of the spiritual master. Most spiritual masters only have this one time in their lives, but some of the top experts on the continent will have a second life transition. That is when they advance to the 9th level of spiritual masters, and then they will undergo deeper changes. Reborn. The rest have broken through to the sect spiritual master, to the supreme spiritual master, to the emperor spiritual master, or to the emperor spiritual master. They are all just accumulation of quantity. My body is still a 7th level intermediate emperor spiritual master. He didn't break through the level, but every cell in my body's tendons, muscles, and internal organs has changed. Jason was extremely excited because the level of life that could make such changes occur in his current 8th level peak body, the jump is definitely not ordinary. Jason's current physical level has reached an extremely astonishing level. You must know that ordinary spiritual masters can only cleanse and cut their hair once at the 4th level, while Jason is promoted to the 1st level spiritual disciple. I washed my hair and cut my marrow once, then washed my hair and cut my marrow again when I was promoted to the 4th level heavenly spirit master. After joining the spirit medicine master tower, I transformed my cells in the spirit transformation pond, and finally in the 5 elements reincarnation potion. Under the terrifying drug tribulation, when he was promoted to the 7th level imperial spiritual master, he even trained his body thoroughly. Moreover, when Jason broke through to the 4th level heavenly spirit master, he spent 2 hours washing hair and marrow, breaking all records in the entire continent. It can be said that Jason's body has reached a limit now, but under the mysterious power of the red dragon crystal, he actually made another jump, and the intensity was so great that it was no weaker than the previous times. Jason was overjoyed. The leap of life changes the talent of a spiritual master and the level of genius of a spiritual master. Although Jason's physical strength, spiritual power and spiritual consciousness have not changed at all, his achievements have not changed. After this change, there will definitely be a huge improvement. Just like an ordinary spiritual master who is a 4th level low-level heavenly spiritual master, his spiritual consciousness, spiritual power and physical strength are all at the 4th level low-level strength, but he can compete with Jason's disciple Loku, who is also a 4th level low-level heavenly spiritual master. Yunbai? Lokuan is a wood spirit. Although their levels are the same, it cannot be said that their future achievements will be the same. Ordinary spiritual masters may be unable to advance even if they advance to the level of supreme spiritual master, but Luoquan, who is in the body of a wood spirit, will at least be promoted to the 8th level of imperial spiritual master. Don't underestimate the evolution of cells and the transition of life just because there is no temporary change in strength. Its importance is unparalleled, because it changes the achievements of a spiritual master in his life and the height he can reach in the future. Some people may say that there is nothing difficult about this. Didn't Jason give Renaud the 7th level Emperor level regeneration potion that he prepared using the cloud spirit fruit? Didn't it also make Renaud reborn and regenerate his body? It is true that the regeneration potion prepared from the cloud mist spirit fruit does have the ability to reshape a spiritual master, but it is only comparable to that of an ordinary spiritual master. With Jason's current 8th level peak body, it would be enough to cleanse the hair and cut down the marrow. If people take it for the first time, I'm afraid it will only regenerate residual limbs, but not Jason's rebirth. Because his body has reached a certain height, it cannot be easily improved by imperial elixirs such as regeneration potions. For anything, the more impurities there are, the easier it is to purify it, but if it has been purified to a certain level, it may not be even remotely difficult to purify it again. This point further highlights the difficulty of Jason's life transition and the horror of the energy contained in the red dragon crystal. After learning about the changes in his body, Jason happily put the jade box of red dragon crystal into the space ring. But before that, he once again tried to use his 7th level intermediate spiritual power and spiritual consciousness to crack the 8th level restriction in the red dragon crystal jade box. Unfortunately, just like when he was in the Kingdom of Orlando, the 7th level intermediate spiritual consciousness and spiritual power cannot penetrate into the 8th level restrictions at all, let alone break them. Based on Jason's experience, he naturally knew that this 8th restriction could only be opened after he advanced to the 8th level of Emperor Spiritual Master. If you are an ordinary spiritual master, I am afraid that you will already have a drum in your heart. Any spiritual master will have a day when his potential is exhausted. It is undoubtedly an extremely difficult thing to advance from the 7th level to the 8th level. But to be honest, Jason now has full confidence in whether he can advance to the 8th level of Emperor Spiritual Master in the future. This is an extremely strong confidence in his future achievements. At the same time, Jason is also full of expectations for the changes that the energy in the 8th level of the red dragon crystal will bring to him. The energy of this 7th level causes such a big change in oneself, so what about this 8th level? But at the same time, Jason also felt that in addition to improving his talent, this energy also had some other changes deep in his cells. Even as a master of elixirs, he was not very clear about these changes. This is related to the deepest mysteries of the human body. Even Jason, who was a 9th level elixir master in his previous life, did not grasp it so deeply. This belongs to the realm of gods. Otherwise, if Jason could master the human body's potential and talent development, as long as he prepared a large number of such spiritual potions, wouldn't he be able to cultivate countless Holy Spirit master bodies like the Lokuan Wood spirit body, allowing the spiritual bodies of the entire continent to become more powerful? All teachers have become 9th level Holy Spirit masters? Obviously, this is simply impossible. There is no other way but to gradually adapt, gradually perceive, and gradually understand its changes. Jason murmured to himself as he felt the changes in his body. Then he came outside the villa and looked up at the night sky. Whoosh! Jason soared directly into the sky, breaking through the clouds in an instant and directly reaching the sky above the elixir city. In the dark night, everything was silent and calm, without any fluctuations, which made people feel peaceful. Let's study the secret of my body's changes in this night sky. Jason drew out the black épée from behind and practiced in the clouds and mist under the night sky. In the following days, Jason concentrated on practicing in the elixir city. Under normal circumstances, he spent points to practice on the trial island of the elixir master tower. The so-called trial island is a training place specially prepared for disciples by the spiritual medicine master tower. The situation on each island is different. The deeper you go, the better you become. Just like the outermost trial island, the content of heaven and earth spirit elements inside is twice that of the outside world, which can greatly restore the spiritual power in the spiritual master's body. However, the trial island inside is even more terrifying. There are 3 times the aura of the outside world, there are also 5 times the aura of the outside world, and even, it is said that there is 10 times the aura of the outside world at the deepest level. Of course, the further inside you go, the more points you need to spend. On the trial island, which has 10 times the aura of the outside world, the points consumed every hour are an astronomical amount. This is not an ordinary disciple in the elixir city, or even only senior disciples with the status of elixir master can consume it. Moreover, the trial island has some special places to choose from. For example, a gold spiritual master can choose to practice on the trial island where only gold spiritual elements exist. A wood spiritual master can choose to practice completely. Practice on trial islands where only wood spiritual elements exist. What's even more terrifying is that some trial islands can increase the spiritual master's comprehension speed, allowing the spiritual master to comprehend the laws of heaven and earth of his own attributes. It is clearer, and on the trial island, if actual combat training is required, the elixir master tower will also arrange specific guardians for training. The guardians can fix themselves at a certain level of strength according to the disciple's strength, so as to stimulate the disciple's potential. All these are to provide a good place for disciples to practice. Of course, if you want better services, the points consumed are not something ordinary disciples can afford, which also inspires the disciples to go crazy. The purpose of earning points is to cultivate disciples to the greatest extent and improve their strength. Of course, Jason's purpose was just to thoroughly understand the changes in his body, so the trial island he chose was the most ordinary one. With Jason's strength, this point was naturally insignificant. Time passed slowly. In addition to practicing, Jason would occasionally communicate with Rongsheng and the others in the villa and give them guidance, especially Rongsheng. In these days, Jason taught them some of the alchemy skills he could. All knowledge was taught to Rongsheng. As for some taboo alchemical knowledge, or alchemical knowledge that was far beyond this era, and would put Jason himself in danger once spread, Jason did not teach it. Rongsheng indeed showed an astonishing talent in alchemy. Although he swallowed a lot of knowledge and could not fully understand it, he could understand most of the knowledge at a glance, which made Jason speechless. But that's all Jason can teach. As for how far Rongsheng can go in alchemy, the rest depends on Rongsheng's own efforts and talent. While Jason is practicing, he is also waiting for the assessment results of the Spirit Medicine Master Tower. For him, these ordinary disciples have no pressure at all. What he hopes is to become a core disciple and see the real people in this continent. The proud son of heaven, an elite figure. In this way, a month passed by as Jason waited, taught and practiced. After a month of continuous research and study, Jason was finally sure of the benefits that the special energy in the red dragon crystal could bring to him. After breaking through the 7th layer of restrictions in the red dragon crystal, the magical power released was integrated into the deepest parts of Jason's body cells, fundamentally causing Jason's body genes to undergo a special transition, causing every cell in the body to it contains a magical special power. The composition of this power is extremely profound. It is some kind of unknown power. Even Jason cannot identify it. But as long as this power is driven in a certain training space on the Spiritual Medicine Master's Tower Trial Island, Jason stood among the mountains and rocks with his upper body curled up and hummed. Through subtle manipulation of body cells and countless previous connections, he directly drove the unknown energy. Power. Suddenly, Jason's body undulated like waves, and tiny wrinkles appeared on his skin. It was as if the skin on his body had turned into fleshy scales in an instant. There was a unique mystery, and at the same time, the world around Jason's perception has become completely different. It's wonderful. Jason closed his eyes and felt the world. Metal, wood, water, fire, earth, the 5 attributes of the 5 elements clearly appeared in his mind. Some simple rules of the 5 elements law, Jason, you can feel it clearly all at once, and some profound laws and mysteries are also looming, and you feel clearly. Although the previous Jason completely integrated the law fragments in the 5 elements reincarnation potion into himself and became a 7th level Emperor Spirit Master, his perception and application were still somewhat vague. However, now, as long as he activates the mysterious power deep in his bloodline and cells, his sense of the law becomes extremely clear, and even the control of the law becomes easier. The flexibility of gold. Jason swung his sword, and several golden lights were like balls of thread swimming in the water. The metal energy that should have been sharp and sharp was now full of softness. This is the softness of gold in the original law of metal. Law. The life and death of wood. Jason turned around, and the spiritual power of the wood element surged, transforming yin and yang, interpreting life and death, like a tai chi rotating, withered vegetation, yin and yang creation, the cycle of life and death, the energy of the wood element that should have represented the vitality of life. At this moment, there are two extremes of life and death, continuous reincarnation, and mysterious anomalies. This is the law of life and death in the original law of the wood system. The fortitude of water. Countless water spiritual powers have condensed and evolved to the extreme, full of perseverance and strength. Water drops can penetrate rocks. The water that should have been flexible and docile has turned into a wave of destruction for eternity at this moment. This is the destruction in the original law of the water system. Law. Passion of fire. The violent and violent fire laws burn and rise, bringing enthusiasm, developing wisdom, creating civilizations one after another, stealing the secrets of heaven, and bringing an immortal dynasty to all things in the world. This is the original law of the fire system. Create rules. The benevolence of earth. Yellow rays of light flowed and were dazzling. It should have been heavy and steady, but at this moment it was gentle, kind, and tolerant of everything, giving people a kind of kindness. It nourished the world and allowed all things in the world to multiply. This is the law of inclusion in the original law of earth. On the trial island, Jason's body danced among the mountains and rocks. He did not deliberately use his sword skills, but just let his instinctive feeling move him while he understood the rules. His body kept swimming, and gradually, combined with the movement of spiritual power in his body, he unknowingly evolved the mysterious artistic conception of the god-destroying technique. At this moment, Jason didn't think too much, but performed it naturally, constantly meditating on several postures and formulas. Every inch of his body's flesh and blood showed a bit of mystery, forming an endless law. Boom! At this moment, there seemed to be a ray of light that penetrated his mind and illuminated his mind. Jason's heart was shocked, and an inexplicable realization rose from his heart, like an enlightenment, which penetrated the past and the future. Run the only law of attack. Boom! In an instant, the world was in riot, and the endless 5 elements of spiritual power poured into Jason's body like a flood. In an instant, the spiritual power throughput in Jason's body increased several times, and a wave of inexplicable pressure descended from the sky and enveloped this world. The god-destroying killing technique, the supreme blow. Jason shouted silently, his eyes were like lightning, bursting with light, his hands were like tai chi, and he pushed slowly, and the spiritual power in his body instantly boiled and spurted out. Rumble. Endless recording power spurted out from Jason Dong's hand, like a colorful divine rainbow, breaking through the void, and the space collapsed. Wherever the divine rainbow went, the void continued to collapse and destroy all tangible and intangible existence. The spiritual power in Jason's body suddenly disappeared. He breathed in and tightened his abdomen, moved his steps lightly, and stood slowly. His long black hair was shawl, and his eyes were shining. He just stood proudly, but it gave people inexplicable pressure. 7 times the power, 7 times the combat power. Jason muttered with a calm expression. After he was promoted to the 7th level intermediate imperial spiritual master and evolved the god-destroying killing technique to a maximum of 5 times the combat power, due to the leap in life, genetic changes, and the sense that everything was impossible, Jason finally had the ability to defeat the god-destroying killing technique. The comprehension of Ju reached a deeper extreme, displaying 7 times the combat power. The special changes in these cells are really incredible. Jason whispered with emotion. All these changes originated from the changes in the energy in the 7th layer of the red dragon crystal. He felt that his soul had been sublimated. In the previous state, he felt that all the laws had become a part of his body and could be used to his heart's content. The fragments of the laws in the 5 elements reincarnation potion that he originally took had completely become part of his body. A part of. At the same time, it is easier for Jason to understand the original laws of the 5 elements. After all, the laws in the 5 elements Tao fruit are not complete. They are just fragments. There are many mysterious laws for each attribute. Unless a true spiritual God, no one can understand the laws of any kind. The deepening of understanding of the original laws of the 5 elements has resulted in a closer integration between Jason and the spiritual power of the 5 elements. At the same time, the speed of cultivation and enlightenment has also increased. At the same time, because he is closer to the origin of the 5 elements, Jason's law attacks will be more powerful. This is also the reason why he can suddenly understand the God-destroying art and display 7 times stronger combat power. However, Jason could feel that this was not his limit. The cells and genes deep within his body could be improved at a deeper level. The space ring on his left hand flashed out, and the red dragon crystal jade box quietly appeared in Jason's left hand. Ancestor of the family, what is going on with this red dragon crystal jade box? What secrets does it contain? Jason sighed softly, his eyes looking at the red dragon crystal jade box were filled with excitement. Eager. The benefits that the opening of the 7th level of restrictions brought to him made Jason eager to break the 8th level of restrictions, filling him with a desire for strength. After coming out of the trial island, Jason flew directly to his residential area without stopping. Senior brother Jason. Senior brother Jason. Along the way, Jason met many disciples from the elixir city. Many of them immediately stayed away from Jason when they saw him, with expressions of fear, and the disciple who was closer immediately stopped, spoke respectfully to Jason, and stood aside, his expression full of humility. Jason passed by expressionlessly, and many disciples didn't even dare to take a breath. Jason's reputation has spread throughout the elixir city after the battle 2 months ago. The elixir city where Jason and the others are located is just the outer layer of the elixir master tower. Generally, only ordinary disciples are here, while the core disciples are in another area, where they practice hard and exercise. Time will never see a core disciple come to the elixir city. Therefore, before becoming a core disciple, Jason had completely become the most famous disciple in the elixir city, with a great reputation, but his fame was limited to the elixir city. Just when Jason was about to return to his villa, he saw from a distance that Rongxing was standing in front of his villa, seemingly waiting for him. Master. Seeing Jason, Rongxing immediately shouted excitedly, and then came forward to greet him. Master, Elder Sevlin and the others have been waiting for you in the room for a while. With him are the Master Alphonsus of the assessment hall and Masters Watt and Benjamin. Melting Saint said excitedly. Master Alphonsus and the others? Okay, I understand. A faint smile appeared on Jason's lips, and then he walked into the room first. He had already guessed what the other party wanted to do here. 2 months were long. The wait now finally has the result. In the living room of the villa, Elder Coughlin and others were sitting there. After seeing Jason, their eyes suddenly fell on Jason. At the beginning, Elder Sevlin and Master Alphonsus just nodded, but the more they looked at it, the more surprised they became, because they found that Jason walked out of the door with a calm and comfortable aura, and he was so heroic on the moon. A unique expression of dominance. It was as if he was the king of heaven and earth, always looking down at all things, watching the sun and moon collapse, and the horns of heaven and earth grow. Elder Sevlin and Hall Master Alphonsus both had surprised and horrified looks on their faces. Jason's aura was not very obvious, it just vaguely fluctuated on Jason's body, looming. If they hadn't both reached the 8th level high-level Emperor Spirit Master, the 8th level low-level Elixir Emperor Master realm would be extremely sensitive to all the auras on anyone's body, and they might not be able to feel it. But on the side Benjamin and What didn't feel anything from Jason, they just looked at Jason with smiles. This surprised the two of them, especially Elder Kafujing, because it showed that this aura was naturally revealed by Jason, rather than deliberately released, and was an expression of his own personality. But you must know that just 2 months ago, when Jason killed Paltrow, although his behavior was extremely arrogant and domineering, the aura and domineeringness he exuded still contained calmness and gave people a sense of calmness. A feeling that is as motionless as a mountain and as stable as a mountain, but at this moment, it has completely changed. Jason's whole aura became extremely sharp, extremely proud and domineering. Elder Coughlin was very puzzled, because compared to Hall Master Alphonsus, he had known Jason during the Continental Elite competition, but Jason at that time did not look outstanding and calm. Incomparable, but a deep pool of water that makes people unable to distinguish the depth, and at the same time the kind of aura that can be completely drowned if thrown into the crowd, so it can be regarded as a dark horse that has suddenly emerged, completely different from the sharp and domineering aura that it exudes now. Elder Coughlin felt unbelievable that one person could have such two different auras and completely opposite personalities. You Elder Coughlin couldn't help but frowned. Jason, I heard that you have been practicing very hard in the past 2 months. Are you practicing some new techniques? Why has your breath changed so much? Jason couldn't help but be stunned, but soon he understood the meaning of Elder Sevlin's words, but he didn't say anything, just smiled. His smile immediately diluted the domineering aura in him. To be honest, Jason himself didn't understand the change in his temperament. Ever since he absorbed the strange power of the 7th level restriction, he felt that his personality seemed to have begun to change. Seeing that Jason didn't say anything, Elder Coughlin didn't ask any more questions. Jason, at this moment, Palace Master Alphonsus spoke. His eyes were extremely calm, but he had the power to see through anyone's heart and desire. After the assessment of our assessment hall, combined with your own strength, although there are many things about you that we at the Spiritual Medicine Master Tower don't know yet, we at the Spiritual Medicine Master Tower don't want to ask questions. Once you become a disciple of my Spiritual Medicine Master Tower, no matter where you come from, we won't care about any family or the purpose of joining our Spiritual Medicine Master Tower, but you must put the interests of our Spiritual Medicine Master Tower first. Once you find out about the behavior of rebelling against the tower, no matter which family you come from in the mainland, you will be behind the scenes. No matter what kind of power there is, I, the Spiritual Medicine Master Tower, will never give up. No matter where you escape, I will kill you. Master Alphonsus looked serious and spoke sternly. Of course, as long as you don't betray the Spiritual Medicine Master Tower, our Spiritual Medicine Master Tower will also protect your safety. Now I ask you, Jason, are you willing to become the core disciple of my Spiritual Medicine Master Tower? Palace Master Alphonsus' eyes were burning. He looked at Jason, waiting for his answer, and everyone in the room was also staring at Jason. I do. Jason nodded. Okay, that's the case. Hall Master Alphonsus said, and then stood up. I, Alphonsus, Master of the Elixir Medicine Tower Assessment Hall, under the witness of Elder Kevlin, now announce your promotion to as a core disciple of our Spiritual Medicine Master Tower. I will send someone to take you to go through the formalities tomorrow. You should take this core disciple's token first. It represents your identity and allows you to enter and exit some hidden places in my Spiritual Medicine Master Tower. Jason, Elder Kevlin, and I are very optimistic about your strength and talent. However, among the core disciples, don't be proud. As one of the top forces in the continent, our Elixir Master Tower has monster-level existences among the core disciples. The core disciple is the essence of our Spiritual Pharmacist Tower. Forget about your previous glory. In my Spiritual Pharmacist Tower, everything starts from scratch and relies on strength. I hope that after many years, I can see you grow up, and when the time comes, I might even call you Lord Tower Master. A golden token shot out from the hand of Lord Alphonsus and fell into Jason's hand. This is the token of the core disciples, the real elites in the entire Elixir Master Tower. Those who can become core disciples are all stunning figures and cannot be ignored. Becoming a core disciple means that you have entered the true core of the Alchemist Tower and become part of the essence. Otherwise, you will just be a passerby in the alchemist tower and will never be truly taken seriously. The core disciple's token is made of a special metal and a unique secret method. It has some special restrictions that no outsider can imitate. Jason observed it for a while and felt that even with his attainments, none of them can be forged, which shows that the spiritual medicine master tower is so tight that it is worthy of being one of the top forces in the mainland. Now that Jason has truly become a core disciple, his status is completely different. Jason is looking forward to seeing what kind of master among the core disciples of the Spirit Medicine Master Tower can be called a monster by the Lord Alphonsus. The presence. However, the world is huge and full of wonders. There are too many geniuses in this world. Jason doesn't think that his spiritual master's training is anything special. Even if he meets some monster, Jason feels that he can still accept it. Of course, when it comes to elixirs, that's a different story. Jason believes that no one in this world, no matter how powerful the elixir master is, can surpass him. Haha, Jason, congratulations. You have finally become a core disciple. When you were in the Northwest, I thought you were extraordinary. I didn't expect that in less than half a year after participating in the Continental Elite competition and joining the Alchemist Tower, you would become a senior disciple. The disciple has become a core disciple. At this speed, I think you are unique except for those geniuses who are specially recruited as core disciples as soon as they come in. As soon as Alphonsus finished his announcement, Master What said congratulations, and Master Benjamin's face was also full of smiles. After Jason was promoted to the core disciple, Jason and them were on an equal footing, both in terms of strength and status. However, among the core disciples, there are hidden dragons and crouching tigers. Each of them is a dragon or a phoenix, and they are domineering and domineering. It is not easy to mix among them. I also served as a core disciple for a period of time at the beginning, but I found that the competition among them was too fierce. So you quit and became a protector, but with your qualifications, you will definitely be able to thrive in it. If you can stand out in the future and become the heir of our spiritual medicine master tower, you will truly reach the sky in one step. But inside, it is different from outside. If you have strength, you must not keep a low profile, otherwise you will be easily bullied. Master What passed on some of his experience to Jason. Okay Jason, we won't disturb you here. Just give me your identity card as a senior disciple first. I will transfer the points and information in it to your core disciple token for you. For the rest of the day, you'd better say goodbye to your friends, because although the core disciples can enter and lead the spiritual medicine city, the competition among the core disciples is extremely fierce. Generally, few core disciples waste time in the spiritual medicine city. Come to Medicine City, and then you will understand what I mean. After What and Benjamin communicated with Jason for a while, Elder Sevlin and Master Alphonsus stood up and took the red from Jason's hand. The ID card is to leave Jason's villa. The news that Jason passed the assessment and was promoted to become a core disciple spread throughout the Elixir City that day. After learning the news, many people were filled with emotion, but more people were happy. After Joy has lost Jason, ordinary disciples like them in the Elixir City will have less psychological pressure. After all, when they think of staying with such a monster, they feel uneasy, as if they are overhead. There is always a big mountain oppressing them, making them, geniuses who are all-powerful in the outside world, a little breathless. However, no matter what other people's feelings are, in the hearts of Claire, Rongsheng, and other newcomers who joined the Elixir Master Tower with Jason, there is only reluctance and sadness of separation. Especially Claire, the reason why she worked so hard, continued to practice hard, and participated in some Continental Elite competition was to be with young Master Jason, but she didn't expect that they had just joined the Elixir Master Tower together for more than 2 months, and the two sides actually met again. To be separated. Master. This time, Claire surprisingly did not shed tears. Her expression was determined, because she knew that her young master was getting better, and she should be happy, but she was always so reluctant to give up in her heart. Silly girl. Jason rubbed her short blonde hair dotingly and spoke softly, it's not like I won't come back. The Elixir Master Tower does not restrict the freedom of core disciples, and the Elixir City is not a forbidden area. When I have time in the future, I can still come back like that paltrow. Jason looked at Claire, his eyes full of doting. To be honest, he didn't know how he felt about Claire. They were far away from home. Sometimes, he would miss her, and when the two of them were alone together, they would also have a faint and unexplained affection. However, he still doted on Claire more, like a brother to a sister, and like a childhood sweetheart of the opposite sex, maybe a little like lovers. It is an indescribable feeling. Jason, who was not experienced in this area, just let nature take its course. He didn't understand what he was feeling. He just continued to improve his strength and climbed to a deeper level, but he never stopped. He was busy. It seems that he has no time to think about this at all. In fact, it is a kind of psychological escape for him who has never experienced it in his previous life. But Claire just practiced silently, moving forward bravely, never expecting anything in return, like a moth rushing to the fire, just hoping to be by the young master's side and everything would be fine. Everyone is very precious about this short time. Although they all know that Jason is not gone forever and can come back when he is free, but they who have gradually integrated into the Elixir Master Tower in the past 2 months also understand that once they advance for core disciples, the competition will be extremely fierce, and there will not be that much time to go back to the Elixir City. This can be seen from the fact that there are almost never core disciples in the Elixir City, and the incident of Paltero is just a special case. If Redis hadn't cried for help, he would not have come to the Elixir City. That night, a dozen people who joined the Elixir City held a large banquet in Jason's villa. Jason, who used to practice hard all the time, drank wine with everyone and laughed heartily. Life is too short. This wanton indulgence made Jason and the others very happy. Under normal circumstances, most of them were 7th-level Imperial Spiritual Masters. Under the influence of powerful spiritual power, they would not get drunk no matter how much they drank. However, tonight, everyone deliberately prevented their spiritual energy from digesting the alcohol. Then many people were drunk, even Jason, who was also in a hazy state. A group of people lay in the hall and fell asleep with smiles on their lips. Jason is here, Eileen. Under the orders of Alphonsus, the master of the assessment hall, I am taking you to report to the core hall. Early the next morning, when the sky was just getting light, a rumbling voice rang outside Jason's villa, waking everyone up. A middle-aged man in a gray robe stood outside the villa, waiting quietly. Goodbye everyone, see you later. Jason said while looking at the people behind him and cupping his hands. Jason, I didn't expect that we joined the Alchemist Tower together, but now you have left us far behind, but that's okay. I believe that one day, I will stand in front of you, challenge you again, and defeat you. Leonardo said firmly, his eyes full of fighting intent. From today on, chasing you is my goal, Sophia. Sophia also said calmly, but looking at her calm eyes, anyone could see how determined she was. Master, you go first, don't worry, I will become a core disciple soon. Then I will find you, Master. As your disciples, we can't be embarrassed. Rong Xing still had such a playful smile, but his hands were clenched tightly in the robe, and his nails were deeply embedded in his flesh. Master. Claire rushed forward and hugged Jason tightly, not wanting to be separated. Dinisha, Temujin, Sri Lanka, and Kiros all did not speak, but at this moment, their hearts were full of perseverance, which was a strong belief that they wanted to catch up, even though they were on the road of practice. They have been left far behind by Jason. Although Jason has stood at a height that needs their admiration, as geniuses, it is the first time that they have such a strong desire for power in their hearts, so strong that they are desperate, just for the sake of it. Chase that person and be able to move forward side by side with him. A 7th-level low-level elixir master, or a core disciple? I will definitely achieve it, because only in this way can I stand in front of you. Dinish's eyes were bright, and there was some kind of determination condensing in her heart. Everyone, I'm leaving. Jason raised his hand again, soared into the air, came in front of Yislin, followed Yislin, and flew towards the Elixir Master Tower. Master. Looking at Jason's retreating back, in front of the villa, Claire couldn't bear it anymore. Tears burst into her eyes along the way. Island only glanced at Jason at the beginning, and then nodded. In a hurry, the two of them arrived at the pagoda of the spiritual medicine master in a short time. Instead of entering from the trading hall on the first floor, Yislin led Jason into the Elixir Tower through another portal, and then went straight to the 6th floor of the Elixir Tower. The entrances to the secret trial realm on the 6th floor and the 5th floor of the spiritual medicine master tower are very similar. What appears in front of Jason is a registration desk, and in the middle of the hall, there is a huge and complex formation diagram. It turns out that the location of this core disciple is in another dimension of the spiritual medicine master tower. Jason understood clearly and followed Yislin into the formation. A dazzling white light lit up, and a strong suction force came. Jason felt his body suddenly lose weight, and the surrounding area was white. After a moment, he felt his body become heavier again, and he stood on the ground. What appeared in front of Jason was a vast expanse of white clouds, as if they were in the sky, and where he was standing at the moment was a huge island, with buildings vaguely visible in the steaming sea of clouds in the distance. Okay, I will send you here. The place where we are now is the city in the sky, created by the Spirit Medicine Master Tower for your core disciples. I think you should see the outline of the domain in the distance. You can take it yourself. Let's report to the core hall. Island said calmly to Jason, and then, regardless of Jason's reaction, she rose into the sky and flew directly towards the depths of the sea of clouds. City in the sky. Jason murmured, and with a movement of his body, he turned into a rainbow and flew towards the city in the distance. After becoming a core disciple, the first step is to report to the Hahue Palace. The Spiritual Medicine Master Tower will allocate resources for you and explain various things to you so that you can truly integrate into the core. The resources of core disciples are countless times more than that of ordinary disciples. Unlike ordinary disciples, as long as ordinary disciples have points, they can just practice every day. The Spiritual Medicine Master Tower will not care about it, but the core disciples, Spiritual Medicine Master Tower, they will also be assigned certain tasks to complete, which are much stricter than ordinary disciples. In the sea of clouds, Yislin did not go far, looking at Jason's retreating figure, with an inexplicable light in her eyes. The competition among the core disciples is extremely fierce. I don't know if Jason can persist, but I heard that in the Elixir City, he killed Paltrow, who was considered good among the core disciples. He must have been quite strong. Fortunately, what happened in the Elixir City would generally not spread to the Sky City, otherwise he would be when Paltrow's few friends learn about it. It is inevitable that there will be trouble again. But Hall Master Alphonsus seems to be quite optimistic about Jason. Let me see, even Hall Master Alphonsus is very optimistic about Jason. How will the young man who values me perform among these core disciples in the future? Yislin's heart fluctuated obscurely, and she didn't stay long before flying past again and disappearing into the sea of clouds. Jason turned into a 5-color rainbow and flew over the island. Soon, he was approaching the city wall in the center of the island. In the center of the city wall, a huge building was built. On the building's plaque, it read, "The word core is the place where newly promoted disciples report, communicate with old disciples, and assign tasks." As soon as Jason landed, he saw some scattered disciples rising and falling in the building. Many of them were 7th-level Imperial Spiritual Masters, but at the same level, there were almost no 7th-level disciples like him. Those who are even weaker than the intermediate Imperial Spirit Masters are obviously the core disciples practicing in the Sky City. If you want to become a core disciple of the Elixir Master Tower, you only need to reach the 7th level of the Elixir Master. Therefore, there are many 7th-level Elixir Masters. Many of them, although their level is not as good as those in the Elixir City. Some 7th-level senior imperial spiritual masters, but their temperament is like a generation of geniuses, the pride of heaven, far beyond the comparison of ordinary disciples in the elixir city. Moreover, their expressions are all proud, and there is a unique temperament in their movements. Although they are 7th-level imperial spiritual masters, their eyes are like Lord Aludiba of Bichur province, or Chiao, the top master of Baihui kingdom. Will is going to be arrogant. Indeed, they have become the core disciples of the spiritual medicine master tower, the top force in the mainland. They are trained as elites and are much more promising than a kingdom in the northwest. Moreover, once their identities as spiritual medicine masters are revealed, they will be more successful in the mainland. The above is no small matter. Just when Jason was observing carefully, "Come on, you finally showed up. I've been waiting for you for a long time. Last time you injured my shoulder and made me unable to prepare for more than a month. This time, I want you to lie in bed for half a year." In the distance, a roaring sound suddenly came, and then an astonishing spiritual power rose up. Jason looked immediately and saw two disciples meeting in a square not far away. One of them, an angry look suddenly appeared on the disciple's face, and then he roared and took action brazenly. A bright blue light roared out from the disciple's handkerchief, turned directly into a torrent of elements, and rushed towards the disciple not far away. Boom! A shocking spiritual power rose, and the robe on another core disciple wearing a fiery red robe suddenly bulged. Countless spiritual power elements condensed in the air, forming a huge flame shield, blocking the attack of the torrent of elements. "AI Stella, stop talking nonsense. I only hurt your arm last time. I was merciful. I didn't expect you to dare to come to me. It seems that come on, was merciful. This time I will cut off all your limbs. Abolish it and make you kneel down when you see me in the future, you know." The red robe took the move with a ferocious face, and laughed loudly. His whole hands turned red in an instant, and he aimed at the person opposite and slapped him fiercely. Boom! A huge fire cloud appeared in front of the man's palm, spinning and crushing away. Boom! An astonishing explosion sounded. Many disciples around them cursed and backed away, making way for the two of them. Some people gathered around and watched the battle between the two with interest, and some people were doing their own thing and turned a blind eye. The only thing that was the same was that no one present was surprised at all when they saw these two people taking action without hesitation. What's going on? On the other hand, Jason in the sky was startled by this sudden battle. It wasn't that he was surprised by the opponent's strength. With Jason's eyesight, he could tell at a glance that both of them were 7th-level advanced ones. Although the Imperial Spiritual Master was powerful, he didn't take Jason seriously. What surprised Jason was the other party's behavior of getting into a fight as soon as they disagreed. He had no scruples at all. It's you, the spirit-changing grass you sold me last time only had a medicinal effect of 300 years. You actually lied to me and said it was 400 years old, causing me to fail in formulating the potion. How dare you show up?" At this moment, another roar came from the crowd. A brown-haired young man opened his eyes wide, pointed at another blue-haired young man and roared. "Boomer, you are not good at identifying medicines on your own, and you still blame me for lying to you, haha, how could there be such a top-class disciple like you among our core disciples?" But the blue-haired young man laughed heartily, his expression full of disdain and not caring at all. Yuda, if you don't pay me back my losses today, don't blame me for being rude." The brown-haired young man said angrily. "Give it back to you? Boomer, are you really an idiot, or are you just pretending to be like this? There is nothing. If you want to die, I can help you." Humph. The brown-haired young man snorted coldly, with a ferocious look on his face. Without saying a word, he struck out like lightning. Boom! The blue-haired young man seemed to have anticipated the opponent's actions. He stopped the attack just before it arrived, but his expression was cold and helpless. "Boomer, you are looking for death." Boom! Again. A pair of fights took place in the square, but the people around them turned a blind eye. This? What happened? Seeing this scene, Jason's heart was suddenly filled with shock. Although he knew something about the struggle between the core disciples, he never thought that the core disciples would be so naked. It's a big fight. Even in the Elixir City, if there is any dissatisfaction among the players, they will not take action easily, but with this core disciple, it is naked, completely exposing the law of the jungle, without any cover-up or whitewashing. This strong contrast made Jason unable to adapt for a while. It's like a young man from the mountains who heard about the beauty of the city and came to the big city alone. He thought that there would be singing and dancing and peace, but he didn't expect that the cruelty and fighting inside were even more shocking than in the mountains and forests. This is a place that eats people without spitting out their bones, and there is no room for mercy. But this is nothing. The weak eat the strong and the strong are respected. This is the law of this world. What surprised Jason was the way everyone dealt with it. In this world, there are too many intrigues, and there are too many places where one accidentally dies without a whole body. It's just like the officialdom. When walking in it, everyone is walking on thin ice. If one is not careful, one's body will be shattered into pieces, but no matter how bitter the two parties are, on the surface, they will still pretend to be friendly and smile, as if everyone is a good friend. But this is not the case in the core hall. Everyone is full of aggression. If someone is unhappy, they will take action directly. There is nothing to say. Only hard fists are the truth. There is not so much hypocrisy, and there is not so much insincerity and coercion. Some are just the weak and the strong, ***, the naked law of the jungle. But soon, a faint smile appeared on Jason's lips. If he had seen this scene in the past, he would have frowned and left. However, since he was promoted to the 7th level Emperor Spiritual Master, his whole person has become more and more relaxed. Unconsciously, he became belligerent, and his personality became domineering and much more fierce. Facing this city in the sky that looked like a realm of chaos, the blood in Jason's chest boiled, and he actually longed for this naked law of the jungle. In the sky, Jason withdrew his gaze, held the token, landed directly, and flew towards the core hall. Hey, why haven't I seen this little guy before? Could it be that he is a newcomer? He is indeed a newcomer. I have never seen him before. There are no core disciples in this sky city that I don't know. Oh? There's actually a new person here to report. New person? Hee, it's interesting, so interesting. Let me see, the 1st level intermediate Emperor, Spiritual Master, well, it should be someone who has advanced to the 7th level low level, a senior disciple of the Spiritual Medicine Emperor. Why don't I recognize this disciple? I have only been promoted to core disciple for 3 years, and I have never heard of this person in the Spiritual Medicine City before. How big is the flow of people in the Elixir City? You haven't been out for 3 years, so you don't know. By the way, I haven't been out for 4 or 5 years, right? I've been practicing so hard that I've lost track of time. Many disciples saw Jason landing. Holding the token, all immediately cast their eyes on him. There was a lot of discussion, some looked playfully, some sneered, and some seemed to see a plaything. These core disciples are all the proud ones of heaven, and are much more arrogant than the senior disciples in the outside world. Jason immediately felt many malicious and playful glances, and his nakedness was not covered up at all, without any fear. Jason immediately knew why Yislin didn't accompany him to report together. It turned out that newcomers were easily bullied by the old. At the same time, Jason also understood the meaning of Master Wut's words yesterday. Just from his previous experiences and the eyes of these disciples, Jason could tell that the competition among these core disciples was many times more fierce than outside. It was simply difficult to survive. Those naked eyes made him want to rush forward and kill him. After stripping himself naked, it is no wonder that Master Wut, who had been a core disciple for a while, then turned into a protector and did not want to continue to be a core disciple. Those with lower levels can only bear the humiliation and swallow their anger, while those with strong strength can get more resources, stand higher and have more status. The higher ones are higher and the lower ones are lower. Seeing a group of disciples pointing at him with amused eyes, Jason snorted coldly, glanced at everyone with a cold expression, and walked into the core hall with his head held high. Oh? This newcomer actually dared to snort and be so arrogant. He probably thought he was a genius in the elixir city. He was used to running rampant outside, but he actually got mad here. Where is this place? The core foundation of the Elixir Master Tower is located. The holy place where all elites are cultivated is still like it's outside, it's just asking for death. I don't know how to keep a low profile. I've seen many newcomers like this, but they all ended badly in the end. Let him know how powerful he is. It's best to let him be our subordinate and prepare the elixir for us. It just so happens that I still lack someone to test the medicine for me. I can catch him and apply to the core palace to let him test the medicine for me for a month. Newcomers always have to endure some hardships before they become honest. I'm here to let him know what it means to be an old man, and teach him a lesson. I'm doing this for his own good, letting him know that keeping a low profile is not like outside. Just when Jason stepped into the gate of the core hall, a tall and burly core disciple with sharp eyes like an eagle, a scar on his face, and a very arrogant expression suddenly dodged and was about to collide with Jason, trying to knock him away. As soon as this scar disciple hit him, countless earth elements quickly circulated in the invisible space around him, condensing from all directions, as if forming a huge cage, attacking Jia from all sides. Sen came around to stop Jason's dodge. At the same time, as soon as the scar disciple's body collided, an inexplicable aura came out of him. His whole body seemed to have turned into a mountain, moving sideways towards Jason. It is unshakable. This is obviously the application of some kind of law. Jason recognized it. It should be the steady as a mountain in the earth law. The steady as a mountain in the earth law is a kind of condensation of spiritual power elements, allowing although the spirit master's temperament turns into a mountain, although it does not really become a mountain, the impact of such a collision is no different from that of a small mountain. This core disciple of Scar, who is deliberately looking for trouble, is obviously a high-level emperor, spiritual master of the earth system. He has understood this law very deeply. Once he uses it, he really feels unstoppable. The collision contains thousands of changes, and all kinds of changes in power are included in it. It is impossible for people to figure out the mystery. And during the collision, there seems to be a unique mystery in it. The surrounding earth spiritual power condenses, giving people a kind of oppression that people can only bear but cannot resist. This scar-faced man is also an extremely talented person. With such a powerful collision, if it were an ordinary 7th level intermediate imperial spiritual master, it would be impossible to resist it, and he would be seriously injured in an instant. But who is Jason? That was the person who killed the 8th level low-level emperor spiritualist Paltrow, so how could he be afraid of the provocation of this little 7th level high-level emperor spiritualist? You don't have eyes when you walk? Seeing the scar-faced man sneer at the corner of his mouth and bump into him, Jason suddenly shouted loudly in his mouth. The spiritual magic in his body was running like lightning, and astonishing spiritual power rose up. Then, facing the impact, Jason slapped him across the face. Boom! Jason clapped his palm, and an astonishing amount of earth spiritual power suddenly rose from his body. At the same time, earth-yellow spiritual power laws circulated, and mysterious and complex spiritual talismans appeared one by one, making Jason it instantly became extremely majestic. This slap contains astonishing earth laws. It seems ordinary, but it contains supreme fighting spirit and is terrifying. If the scar-faced man uses the earth laws to transform himself into a mountain, then at this moment, in everyone's perception, Jason turned into an entire rolling mountain range, and the power he released was many times that of the opponent. Boom! The scar-faced man stopped and felt that the spiritual confinement space he had arranged was broken like paper by the other party. Jason's palm struck him. He couldn't dodge at all. He could only widen his eyes in horror. He watched helplessly as the opponent's palm came towards him. Roar. Deep in his heart, he let out an angry roar, but it was of no use. The angry roar reached his throat, severe pain, and the rupture of the muscles and veins in his body, which directly transformed the angry roar for screaming. The scar-faced man was hit by Jason's palm, and he was immediately sent flying. Although the blow hit his face, the other man's whole body was twisted, and red liquid spurted out from his mouth. Blood flew out like a dead pig. When Jason hit the opponent, the scar-faced man formed an earth spiritual armor on his face in time. He was also a master with such a quick reaction, but in front of Jason, there was no one at all. A little bit of use, as fragile as tofu. Ah! He screamed miserably, and with a splash, he flew up, then fell to the ground, struggling like a big fish out of water, spitting out red blood from his mouth. It was like having epilepsy and becoming a dead fish. He no longer had the previous ruthlessness, calmness, and arrogance. Seeing the other party's embarrassed appearance, Jason suddenly used his spiritual power and washed his palms, as if he had touched something dirty, with disgust in his eyes. Things like ants dare to be so rampant. I simply don't know how to write the word death. Let me teach you a lesson and let you know that not everyone can afford to offend you. Jason stood proudly in front of the hall, his eyes ran, his mouth was cold and his eyes were full of contempt and disdain. Although he is only a 7th-level intermediate imperial spiritual master, it really doesn't take any effort to teach a 1st-level advanced imperial spiritual master. What? Senior brother Halai was beaten away just like that? Senior brother Halai has been promoted to the 7th-level senior emperor spiritual master for some years, and he has practiced the moon-level skills of the earth shaman to an extremely advanced level. How could he be slapped away? That boy is not a 7th-level boy. Intermediate emperor spirit master? Did we get it wrong? He hid his strength? Here comes a ruthless person, this newcomer, he is so ruthless. No wonder he is so cruel. It turns out he has 2 brushes in his hand, which is not ordinary character. It looks good now. It turns out that this newcomer is so fierce and arrogant. It will definitely alarm some evil characters among our core disciples. They really don't know how to restrain themselves. Seeing Jason in an instant, the scar-faced man who was a 7th-level senior imperial spiritual master was whipped away. Some of the core disciples around him showed extremely shocked expressions on their faces and subconsciously stepped back. They all know that not every newcomer who joins the core disciples is weak. In the outside world, there are some elixir masters who are not very talented in elixirs. They even broke through to the 7th level after being promoted to the 8th level emperor spiritual master. Only low-level elixir masters are recruited into the core disciples. Such people are very arrogant as soon as they come in. But it's useless. If you don't know how to restrain yourself, you will be dealt with sooner or later. Of course, it has nothing to do with them, a group of 7th-level imperial spiritual masters. As 7th-level imperial spiritual masters, they can only retreat if they get there first. It seems that you have to be aggressive wherever you go, otherwise you will be bullied. The principle of good people being bullied and good horses being ridden by others is correct wherever you put it. It is a universal truth. Jason's gaze swept across, and several core disciples who were about to bully him retreated. Feeling his powerful aura, they had a look of shock on their faces and did not dare to come forward to provoke. Jason knows that the competition among core disciples is extremely cruel. If he is soft today and doesn't show toughness, he will definitely be in trouble in the future. Just like Master What said, don't keep a low profile here, show your strength if you have it, otherwise it will be easy being bullied. How dare you hurt me, damn it. The burly core disciple, Halai, who was whipped away by Jason, struggled on the ground for more than 10 breaths before he woke up and jumped up, his body flashing with an unearthly yellow light. His eyes were filled with hatred as he looked at Jason and roared angrily. While roaring, his right hand shook slightly, and in an instant, 2 bottles of spiritual potion appeared in his right hand, shining with a magnificent death light. One of the cyan bottles exuded the breath of life, which was a 6th-level bottle. Healing potion, and as soon as another bottle of earth yellow spiritual potion appeared, the earth spiritual power elements in the air instantly surged, rushing towards the scar-faced man as the center. Jason could tell at a glance that the earth yellow potion that the scar-faced man took out was actually a bottle of the 7th-level Emperor level spiritual potion Violent Earth Potion, although the Violent Earth Potion was only a 7th-order lower-grade Emperor level spiritual potion. The potion is far from comparable to the Madness Potion that Paltrow took out last time, but it is still a 7th-level Imperial spiritual potion and should not be underestimated. As soon as the scar-faced man took out the 2 bottles of elixir, he opened the elixir without any hesitation, and then swallowed it in 2 gulps. Boom! An astonishing aura of spiritual power suddenly rose from the scar-faced man, and the earth-yellow aura of spiritual power swept through everything, making Jason change his color slightly. This core disciple is indeed different from the elixir city outside. In the elixir city outside, even the senior disciples who are elixir masters rarely have 7th-level imperial elixirs on their bodies. However, among the core disciples, every one of them has at least. They are all 7th-level low-level elixir masters, but imperial elixirs are not uncommon. Haha. After the scar-faced man swallowed these 2 bottles of spiritual potion, the spiritual power in his body surged instantly. He laughed loudly and jumped up. His eyes were blood red, and his big hands were spread out. Countless earth-yellow spiritual power elements were in the air. The sky above his head rose, and visions came one after another, and he actually launched a desperate attack on Jason. In the sky, the khaki spiritual elements formed a dark cloud. The dark clouds were rolling, and there were bursts of huge chanting sounds, as if they were expounding some ancient civilization. At the same time, the dark clouds were rolling and condensed into a huge facial mask with a black hole-like mouth open. On top of the facial mask, there is a huge word which looming, exuding astonishing pressure. The magical skill of the Overlord Witch, the arrival of the Ancestral Witch. This is one of the unique tricks of his magical skill of the Tyrant Witch. He tried his best, and senior brother Hei Lai began to work hard. Not long ago, in a mission, a flame dragon beast, which can be called the peak of the 7th level and is about to break through to the level of the Emperor Spirit Master, was directly torn apart. The Ancestral Witch came to the world, and 10,000 witches devoured the sky. Some disciples saw this vision, and they all had expressions on their faces. With shock on their faces, they all retreated, for fear of being affected. "You brat, you're a newbie, you don't understand the rules, and you dare to hurt me. Today, I'm going to let you know what an old man is, ah." The man with the scar face looked up to the sky and roared. His face was ferocious, and his eyes were filled with tears. Blood red, directed at Jason, and kept roaring. "Take your life." The scar-faced man's body has melted into the dark clouds, and the facial makeup on the dark clouds suddenly swelled. The word which released brown-yellow light, flowing billowingly, sweeping everything, like the coming of a plague. Wherever it goes, the shamanic sound trembles, disturbing people's minds and making them feel like they are falling into a demonic realm. "You don't know how to live or die." Jason took a step forward, the spiritual art in his body was running, his eyes were cold, and his combat power exploded to the extreme in an instant, and he punched the dark clouds that were rolling down towards him. The Overlord is invincible. Boom. Facing the stranglehold of 10,000 witches devouring heaven, Jason punched out. In an instant, a terrifying torrent of spiritual power shot up into the sky from Jason's right fist. The rolling torrent was like the long river of time, spanning the entire century. At this moment, Jason seemed to have turned into a demon god. An unspeakable domineering force suddenly burst out from his body. His blood boiled at this moment, and the terrifying wolf, the arrival, made everyone tremble. At this moment, Jason seemed to be the only one in this world, in charge of all civilizations, all principles, and all lives. Many people present felt as if heaven and earth no longer existed. They saw Jason's figure instantly enlarged, standing proudly in the sky, domineering, and their hearts trembled. They wanted to fall to the ground and worship, unable to lift up. A sense of resistance. What is powerful about this punch is not the strength or the spiritual power, but the power of the punch. Jason completely aroused the domineering energy in his blood. In the previous life, he stood on the top of the continent with his elixir science, unmatched by anyone. In this life, he will come to the world with absolute force and dominate the entire continent and the entire civilization. The entire plane. The terrifying torrent of elements, with such a will, washed directly into the dark cloud transformed by the scar-faced man. Buzz. All the dark clouds, Jinbu, were turned away in one blow, crackling, and the huge shaman god's face was constantly distorted, and then collapsed and turned into countless dust. When the scar-faced man froze in midair, his clothes were torn apart inch by inch in the sound waves, every muscle in his body was exploding, blood and flesh flew everywhere, he screamed in midair, and then fell straight down. There is only incoming air and no outgoing air. It was obvious that the opponent had run out of energy and was seriously injured. Even if he was a 7th level elixir master, he didn't know how many days it would take to recover. I'm merciful to you, but you don't know what's wrong. I'll give you a lesson you'll never forget, so that you know not to offend people you shouldn't offend in the future. Jason struck out with one blow, shaking without even looking at the other person. Sleeves snorted coldly in his mouth, stepped directly up the stairs, and walked towards the main hall of the core hall. Ah! He actually knocked out senior brother Halai with such a punch. What kind of tyrannical strength is this? Is this really a newcomer? This is the demon god, this is the demon god. It's too scary. Senior brother Halai took the earth-violating potion and used the overlord witch power to create the ancestral witch. Even if he met an 8th level low-level emperor spiritual master monster, he could hold on for a while, but he was knocked unconscious by his punch. So domineering, so arrogant, so rampant, did you feel it? What happened just now, with one punch, I almost lost my mind. What kind of skills does this newcomer practice? He is so arrogant and domineering. Let's go. Let's go. Let's not stay here. The opponent is too powerful. Leave quickly and put this person away. The news has spread that this time there is such a powerful newcomer among the core disciples of our elixir master tower. I think the masters on the elixir list will be very interested. Some disciples saw this scene and were horrified. They almost lost their souls, their whole body trembled, and they flew up for a while. They didn't dare to say anything more, for fear that Jason would attack them too. Generally speaking, a powerful dragon cannot overpower a local snake, and newcomers cannot fight against an old man, but there are always exceptions. When a powerful dragon crosses the river, it is too powerful, and local snakes have no choice but to succumb. They have no choice but to give in, and they all know what will happen if they don't give in and act arrogantly. Scarface is a role model. At the beginning, when they saw a new disciple who was only a 7th level intermediate emperor spiritual master, they were all very excited, thinking that he could be kneaded by them like dough, but they didn't expect that someone would come up and knead it like this. But the whole hand was crushed. Jason ignored them and walked directly into the core hall with his head held high. In the core hall, some of the guardians who presided over the release of tasks and allocated resources also saw the previous scene, and they all sighed in admiration, knowing that a ruthless person was coming. They were just about to go to meet the earth, but at this moment, they saw, far away in the square, a figure traveled through the space, coming like a fire dragon, rushing directly towards here. Before the fire dragon arrived, the temperature outside the entire core hall suddenly rose by dozens of degrees, as if it had suddenly entered a big stove. Pung! The figure flashed out in an instant, like a meteor falling to the ground, and stood in front of Jason. The fire dragon landed, and all the flames spread out in all directions. The flames formed a dying flower, and each flower disappeared with the wind, reflecting the mystery of the law. Then a person appeared in the crimson light. This person was wearing a crimson spiritual master's robe. His hair was blood red and fluttered wildly behind his head. He had no extraneous things on his body and was very neat. He was a young man. His eyes are fiery red, like two rotating scorching suns, making people dare not look closely, and the corners of his mouth are grinning with an uninhibited smile. This is actually a natural difference. In the Stern continent, there are people with red eyes, but they are definitely not like the other party, shining like the scorching sun. This is the legendary red sun pupil, which is extremely rare. It is rumored that spiritual masters with red sun pupils are born with a perception of fire elements and laws far beyond ordinary people. They have the ability to transform into flames, refine all impurities, and can practice faster than ordinary spiritual masters. Several times, for ordinary spiritual masters, the 7th level Imperial Spiritual Master, which is extremely difficult to achieve, can be achieved by possessing the red sun light pupil, no matter how poor the talent is. Of course, both have special physiques, but this red sun pupil is still far inferior to the 5-element attribute body of wood spirit like Loken. Even among pupil-type physiques, it can only be regarded as it is average, far from being compared with the legendary Yin-Yang Twin Eyes and Sharingan. Seeing that the other party was blocking his way, Jason couldn't help but frown slightly. However, Jason did not take action immediately. The opponent continued to exude a faint imperial power. The young man standing in front of him was actually an 8th-level low-level Imperial Spirit Master. This is Senior Brother Azeroth. Oh my god, it's him. What is he doing here? Could it be that he saw the previous scene and couldn't stand the arrogance of this newcomer? Now there's something good to see. As soon as Brother Azeroth arrives, this newcomer is completely doomed. We should let this kid know how powerful our old man is. Otherwise, where will the majesty of our old man be? Many people were excited, and the crowd that originally wanted to retreat once again watched from a distance. Huh? The young man looked coldly at the people around him. The scene where there was a lot of discussion before seemed to have been castrated suddenly. It suddenly became silent. Everyone took a step back and did not dare to speak. The young man nodded with satisfaction. He looked at Jason. Gee. Jason immediately felt waves of heat rolling in, as if he was in a furnace for refining weapons, suffering in it. The other party did not use any force, and it was so powerful just by looking at it with his eyes. This person is powerful. I don't know how much stronger than the Black Force before, but he is almost the same as the Paltrow who was killed by me in the Elixir City. It's just that he is a red sun pupil. There must be some in him. It's more troublesome to hide the method, but it doesn't matter. Now I have absorbed the energy in the 7th level restriction of the Red Dragon Crystal. The God-destroying technique, with 7 times the combat power, will make any low-level Emperor Spiritual Master hate him. Now he stopped me, I won't do anything first, let's see what he has to say. Jason moved his body slightly, and the laws of the fire system circulated around him. With a loud sound, he blocked the opponent's fire system outside his body. At the same time, the laws of the water system circulated in his body. A cool mood surrounded his whole body, and all the fire energy around him was immediately removed. Eliminate. Jason, who was still in the furnace before, felt as if he had arrived in the cool autumn grassland in the next moment, feeling majestic and relaxed. Oh? Seeing Jason, his whole body regained its coolness in an instant. At the same time, there were profound fire and water laws flowing in his body. Thinking of the earth laws released by Jason and Hei Lai earlier, this A's loss was slightly moved, with a hint of surprise in his eyes, and he made a sound like a burning flame. I didn't expect that such a powerful newcomer would appear this year. What's your name? Jason. Jason spat out 2 words. He said with a calm expression, "Your name is Azeroth?" The Red Sun pupil has a special physique in ancient records and has a great reputation. But I don't know what your intention is in blocking my way. You are very calm. Azeroth heard Jason speak and frowned. Ordinary disciples will be trembling when they say a few words to me, but you don't feel any pressure at all, but that's okay. I saw it before, you are a spiritual master of the 3rd line. I admire you very much. Please be loyal to me. You are so arrogant and rampant, which will be unlucky among the core disciples. If you follow me, I will be responsible for your safety. No one dares to touch you. Azeroth talked eloquently, opening his mouth to admire Jason and ask Jason to be loyal. What? Brother Azeroth actually wants this Jason to be loyal. This, around him, the core disciples who were waiting for Azeroth to teach Jason a lesson were all shocked, with various expressions in their eyes. Both, I can't tell what the expression is. Hearing this, Jason was almost speechless and barely swallowed his breath. Although the tone of the other person's words was neither a hysterical roar nor a sharp tone, it was this slow tone and matter-of-fact demeanor that made him look even more arrogant, the aloofness emanating from the bones. Especially the tone of the other party asking him to be loyal, just like a general of the imperial court, seeing a little soldier, then coming over to say that he admires the other person, asking him to be loyal, and then waiting for the other person's eyes to kneel down with joy and thank him, which made Jason extremely unhappy. You still have to be trembling when talking to you? And you ask me to be loyal to you? It's ridiculous. Who do you think you are? A 9th level Holy Spirit Master or a 9th level elixir master? Jason laughed angrily. I've seen big shots too. After many years, we are all the core disciples of the spiritual medicine master tower. We are on equal footing. Please speak in a lower tone and don't flash your tongue with big words. Jason smiled coldly. What's more, even if you are really a 9th level Holy Spirit Master or a 9th level Holy Spirit Master, the Holy Master of Elixirs is not qualified to ask me to be loyal, and my loyalty is almost enough. Jason did not boast. No one could ask him to be loyal, but it was him in the previous life who followed him and was loyal to his 9th level Holy Spirit Master. There are also those 8th level high-level elixir Emperor Masters, but I don't know how many there are. This after hearing what Jason said, the core disciples who were previously shocked that Azeroth asked Jason to be loyal, all felt like they had seen a ghost for a moment. With unconcealable horror in their eyes, they stepped back one after another. Huh? As soon as Azeroth heard Jason speak, his originally aloof face suddenly turned cold. The scorching sun in his eyes rotated like a gear, and a blazing fire suddenly burned in his pupils. Boom! Immediately, Jason felt that everything around him was surrounded by flames. It seemed that he was deep in the core of the sun. All kinds of hot air currents were surging like magma, trying to melt himself into ashes. Jason knew that the other party was using the power of the red sun eyes. Break it! He stepped hard towards the ground. Boom! A wave of air was generated out of thin air, surging in all directions, as if being poured down by a ladle of ice water. Countless flames in the void were extinguished by the wave of air. The scarlet sunlight eyes are nothing special. If you want to show off your power in front of me, you are totally wrong. Get out of the way quickly and don't block my way. Otherwise, even if you are the scarlet sunlight eyes, you will have to bear my endless anger. I advise you not to make the same mistake as that guy before. The air wave from Jason's stamped foot contains the huge waves in the law of water, and at the same time, the mutual restraint of fire and fire in the law of fire, plus the 3rd level spiritual ring, the intimidation of the original fire power of the immortal fire phoenix spiritual heart, and the combination of the 3, even though the opponent has the alien red sun pupil, it will be extinguished by Jason. Although the flames of the red sun eyes were powerful, they still couldn't take advantage of Jason. Okay. After the flames were extinguished by the air wave, the word good suddenly came out of Azeroth's mouth. His voice was cold and full of murderous intent. making people feel like they were in the world when they heard it. In the cold winter of the 12th lunar month, the whole ears are about to freeze. Jason, you probably don't know my methods, that's why you dare to talk to me like this. Azeroth's tone was cold, but his eyes were like the scorching sun, constantly reincarnating, changing his expression. You have completely angered me. You know, but my lord has a lot. You are a newcomer, I will not care about you. Kneel down and ask for my forgiveness. I can give you a chance, otherwise, I will let you know. Anger me, Azeroth. I believe you will never want to experience such pain again in your life. So what if you know? So what if you don't know? Jason said slowly, with a sneer on his lips. Do you want to kill me? Me? It's a pity that you don't have this ability. Get out of the way quickly, and don't humiliate yourself. You are also an old man among the core disciples. It won't look good to be beaten by me until you lie on the ground like a dead dog. What Jason said as soon as it fell, all the core disciples in the square in front of the core hall were stunned. They looked at Jason in horror, as if they had seen the continent collapse. Many people's eyes widened, their mouths opened so wide that their eyes were about to roll down. They couldn't believe their ears. Senior Brother Azeroth is a low-level Imperial Spirit Master of the 8th level. He is the truly powerful one among the core disciples, the backbone. But what did Jason say to Brother Azeroth just now? It doesn't look good to be lying on the ground like a dead dog after being beaten by him. This Jason is really arrogant to the point of lawlessness, arrogant to the point of being outrageous, arrogant and domineering to the extreme. As the core disciples of the spiritual medicine master Pagoda, none of them are good-natured and usually very arrogant and extremely arrogant. But now after seeing Jason, they know what it means to have someone outside the world. Compared with Jason, their arrogance is like children playing house, called shy and low-key. Okay. Azeroth was completely angry, with murderous intent all over his body, and he said 3 words okay in succession. How dare you talk to me like this? I will let you know what life is worse than death. Do you know that everyone who talked to me in Azeroth like this before is already dead, and you are no exception? It is unforgivable. Now even if you kneel down and beg me, it's useless. Azeroth's whole body was boiling with flames, astonishing spiritual power surged from his body, his face was red, and he kept making angry sounds in his mouth. You talk too much nonsense. I don't have so much time to waste with you. Since you don't want to get out of the way, then get out of my way. Jason spoke. He didn't use any sweet words and just punched out. Boom. Jason punched out, and the entire space trembled. The void was distorted like a mirror, and then collapsed. The terrifying spiritual power formed a black hole vortex in Jason's fist, spinning continuously. Swallow all the elements and blast away at Azeroth. Boy, you're looking for death. Azeroth roared angrily, and the flames soaring into the sky engulfed him. In an instant, his entire figure turned into a scorching sun, and with every movement of his hands, the fire spiritual elements in the square outside the core hall, they all roared, and madness was absorbed into Azeroth's body. The scorching heat was rising, the sun was scorching, the firebirds were chirping, and a scorching sun was like a rolling wheel, crushing towards Jason. In everyone's frightened eyes, the black hole vortex and the red scorching sun were wrapped in unimaginable terrifying energy, and they collided together like lightning. Boom! The dazzling light exploded in an instant, and the whole world was filled with white light. A deafening roar sounded in everyone's ears. The powerful spiritual energy flow swept across, like a disturbed water surface, forming a series of ripples, heading towards spread around. Some of the 7th-level Imperial spiritual masters who were close had frightened expressions on their faces. They were all retreating continuously. The spiritual power in their bodies was vibrating, their meridians were shaking, and they almost spat out a mouthful of blood. The white light flashed away, and the figure appeared. Jason was still on the steps in front of the core hall, retreating slightly, but Azeroth gave way to the whole person. The road that was blocked before was now empty. Come on. And the core hall is made of unknown materials. The complex and mysterious spiritual patterns flowing on it were not damaged at all by the terrifying blow from Jason and Azeroth. The entire square was silent at the moment. Looking at where the two stood, anyone with a discerning eye could see that the newcomer Jason had the upper hand in the previous attack. Azeroth was completely crazy. He blocked the door again. His face instantly turned the color of pig liver, as if he had been greatly humiliated. He turned red and purple, almost to the point of dying. Crazy. Boom. Amazing spiritual power rose from his body, and various visions surrounded him. Two astonishing red lights burst out from his eyes, cutting through the void. The spiritual power in Jason's body was also boiling, and he would take action at any time. If the opponent, he didn't know what was good or bad, and he didn't mind giving the other party an unforgettable memory. Just when the two sides were on the verge of a fight, who was yelling in the core hall? A faint voice came from the sky. This voice was not loud, but it gave people an unspeakable pressure. It sounded clearly and rumbling in everyone's ears. Upon hearing this voice, the expressions of everyone present changed. Even Azeroth, who was surrounded at the entrance of the core hall and looked extremely angry, suddenly calmed down. A figure quickly appeared in the sky. When the sound first sounded, the other person was just a black dot. However, when the sound fell, the other person had already arrived in the sky above the square and fell like lightning. Boom! The astonishing breath dispersed. As soon as he fell, the entire core hall seemed to be shaking unbearably. Everyone felt that their minds were swaying and they couldn't help themselves. This is a middle-aged man wearing a khaki robe. He looks like he is in his early 30s. He has short brown hair and a shaggy beard. However, his eyes are like thick yellow earth. When people look at them, they have a kind of there was an inexplicable sense of calmness, and the majesty was revealed in every movement of his body. This earth-yellow man came to the core hall. The most eye-catching thing was that he was holding a bloody head in his hand. This head was about the size of a millstone, covered with green markings, with scales spreading on the surface and fangs sticking out, filled with a certain barbaric atmosphere, dark green fishy blood dripping down. It turned out to be the head of a spiritual beast. That's the head of the 8th level Emperor level spiritual beast, the green patterned dragon? It's really the head of the green patterned dragon. This green patterned dragon grew up in the trial secret realm of our spiritual pharmacist tower, causing harm an Emperor level spiritual beast for a long time. Senior brother Balthazar actually accepted this mission, killed this Emperor level green striped dragon, and succeeded, directly bringing back the head of this vicious green striped dragon. This green striped dragon has killed more than 10 disciples in our spiritual medicine master tower in its hands for countless years. There are even 2 core disciples among them who have been chasing and killing them, but they have failed. This time, senior brother Balthazar stayed in the secret trial realm for nearly 4 months and finally killed this evil beast. Senior brother Balthazar is indeed worthy of being among the top 10 on the elixir list. We can only look up to this kind of strength. Many core disciples who were paying attention to the battle between Jason and Azeroth before saw the head carried by the khaki man, and they all started shouting, especially several of the female disciples almost showed their love nakedly. What? Balthazar, you killed the green-striped dragon. Is this its head? Very good. Very good. In the core hall, several guardians who were paying attention to what was going on outside passed by Azeroth and walked out of the core hall, hurried to the inner hall to receive the reward. This green-striped dragon is extremely cunning and is in the trial. I have been causing trouble in the secret realm for a long time, and I was finally killed by you. That's nothing. Balthazar smiled and walked straight towards the core palace. Azeroth, who had been blocking the entrance of the palace before, hurriedly stepped aside at this time, not daring to stop him in the slightest. Was it you who yelled at the entrance to the core hall before? You really don't understand the rules. The core hall is where our core disciples hand over tasks, exchange spiritual objects, and communicate with each other. Who gave you the courage to yell, bully newcomers, and block the way here? Do you think you are the biggest here? If you have the ability, take more hunting missions in the Killing Abyss and Trial Secret Realm, and leave quickly, I won't care. Otherwise, the khaki man Balthazar walked up to Azeroth. He did not rush in, but looked at him coldly and spoke slowly. His voice was not loud, and his tone was not harsh. However, Azeroth, who was so arrogant before, now has a smile on his forehead. Cold sweat broke out all of a sudden, with fear in his eyes, as if he had suddenly changed from a tiger to a little sheep. Yes, Senior Brother Balthazar taught him a lesson, but this kid was arrogant before. Incomparably, he also injured an old man among our core disciples. I couldn't stand this man's arrogance, so I took action. Azeroth nodded repeatedly, not daring to show any disobedience. But his heart was full of resentment. He shouted and defended. If Azeroth, like Paltrow, is the mainstay among the core disciples in terms of masters, then Balthazar, who is ranked in the top 10 of the elixir list, is the real top master among the core disciples. The existence that shocks all the heroes. The spiritual medicine list is the only list that can represent the strength of the entire core disciples. The masters who can be at the top of the list are either powerful in the spiritual medicine master tower, sweeping thousands of armies, or in terms of spiritual masters. His attainments in elixir science have reached astonishing heights, and he is a true elixir master. Moreover, the elixir list is not simply ranked according to the level of the core disciples, but is ranked in the elixir list competition every once in a while. Those who came out of the duel, respectively against the spiritual master and the elixir, were completely solid, without any moisture. As soon as Balthazar appeared, everyone around him was trembling with fear. Obviously, the other party had a huge reputation in the Sky City. Now when they heard Azeroth say this, they all looked at Jason with pity. Huh? You still dare to defend? Did I say something wrong? However, Balthazar ignored the other party's words, and his voice suddenly increased several times. His eyes were filled with light, and his whole body was soft. Take a step towards Azeroth. Boom. An astonishing aura suddenly shot up from his body. Jason, who was not far away, suddenly felt a vast, distant, deep, and unshakable aura emanating from the opponent's body in his mind. The terrifying emperor-level aura filled the air, and the opponent seemed to have turned into an ancient barbarian god in an instant. Stand proudly in this world. In an instant, Jason's originally mirror-like mind suddenly started to shake, his hair stood on end, and a sense of crisis suddenly emerged from his heart. Master, absolute master. Jason's eyes suddenly condensed, and a sense of crisis emerged in his heart. The blood in his body began to boil. The emperor-level aura exuding from the other party was not like Paltrow or Azera. What an 8th-level low-level emperor spiritual master like C exudes is not a strong aura, but the terrifying pressure that a truly experienced emperor spiritual master can unleash. No, Brother Balthazar, calm down, I don't dare. Azeroth had a hint of panic in his eyes. If possible, he would have the guts to stand up. But he didn't dare. Balthazar, don't get entangled with these juniors. You killed the green-striped dragon. This is a great joy. It's better to go into the inner hall, quickly, to receive the reward. With your status, you can't waste it on such a small thing. Time. Several of the guardians who came out suddenly made a sound. Humph. Go away, if I see you here again, bullying newcomers, I will make you regret provoking me, Balthazar. Balthazar snorted coldly, and then stopped looking at the other party. Surrounded by the guardians, he stepped into the core hall and entered the inner hall. Before leaving, Balthazar looked deeply at Jason, and there was an inexplicable look in his eyes. Huh, brat. You are lucky today. You have Brother Balthazar protecting you. Just wait for me. If I see you again next time, I will let you know how powerful I am in Azeroth. Azeroth looked at Jason with resentment and whispered in his mouth. The flames on the body's surface flowed and instantly turned into a red rainbow, flying into the depths of the sea of clouds. Don't dare to stop at all. Jason hesitated for a moment and was ready to fight. However, he thought that he had just arrived in the core hall and had not even completed the report. If it really caused too much trouble, it would not be good, so he stopped and sneered, "Okay. But I advise you not to meet me, because I will beat you until you kneel down and beg for mercy like a dead dog." After saying this, Jason shook his robe and walked into the core hall. This guy. Previously, Haley was knocked unconscious with one punch. Did you see it before? In the confrontation between him and senior brother Azeroth, he seemed to have the upper hand. If senior brother Balthazar hadn't appeared, this would have been a shocking battle. This newcomer is a ruthless person and not easy to mess with. Jason walked into the back of the core. I saw that many disciples in the core hall were looking at me from a distance, with various expressions on their faces. However, compared with before, there was a lot less naked provocation, and more part fear, part surprise. There were also several guardians who abandoned Balthazar and had not been greeted before. Their eyes also had an inexplicable light, and they were secretly surprised. This newcomer can knock out Haley with one punch. He directly faces Azeroth and competes with Azeroth. Although it is a simple confrontation, he does not fall behind. It is simply overwhelming and tyrannical. Yes, Azeroth's red sun eyes is famous far and wide. He is also in the middle and upper level among many core disciples. It seems that this newcomer is also outstanding. This Jason has such strength when he first came in. After becoming a core disciple, with the cultivation of many resources of our elixir master tower, what achievements will he achieve in the future? Maybe another monster will be born, originally, I wanted to arrange a relatively small mansion for this newcomer to practice, but now it seems that it is not possible. We have to take out the best mansion, and he will grow up in the future. It will also show our affection. That newcomer is also a ruthless person. Roll. As soon as he came in, he beat Black Lie half to death, and then confronted Azeroth. If you offend him, life will be difficult. Several guardians of the core hall saw Jason approaching and immediately rushed to greet him. Although the battle between Jason and Azeroth just now was just a simple confrontation, and the battle did not actually succeed under Balthazar's scolding, but that was because of Balthazar's terrifying strength, which was among the top 10 on the elixir list. Azeroth is also a master among the core disciples, after the previous scene. Of all the people present, no one dared to underestimate Jason. Jason, take out your token, and we will arrange a residence for you to practice. Let's do this. I remember one of the leading guardians spoke up, but he didn't say a word just now. The brows furrowed. The expressions of the other guardians were also stunned. Although the other party's change of color was only for a moment, it was still keenly captured by Jason. Jason, wait a moment, I happen to remember that there is still one important thing to do. You sit here and rest for a while. We will discuss it later. The expressions of the guardians changed, and then the conversation changed. After placing Jason aside and sitting down, they all left in a hurry, leaving one person behind in a hurry and walked into the core hall. Although Jason looked at after getting a clue, he did not guess what happened to the other party, but watched it in the hall of the core hall. The hall of the core hall is similar to the hall of the General Union. There are some tasks recorded on it, and some information, such as transactions. Many disciples were walking around casually and watching. Jason could tell that the people here were generally 7th level Emperor spiritual masters, but like 8th level Emperor spiritual masters. Jason didn't see anyone, and Balthazar and the several guardians who walked in earlier were not here. They should have gone to the inner hall they mentioned earlier. While Jason was watching the entire core hall in the lobby. Inside the core hall, several of the guardians who had previously talked to Jason all followed a middle-aged man into a room. Longba, we were just about to arrange a mansion for Jason. Why did you use your skills to send messages to let us in? And you brought us all to this place. The leading protector immediately spoke out as soon as he entered the room. Voice. Guys, I didn't send a message to let you in, but Protector Quila asked me to call you. The middle-aged man spoke and pointed to the inside of the room. Only then did the several guardians discover that there was an old man in the room with a wrinkled face and a huge black mole at the corner of his mouth. Ah, Guardian Quila, I don't know what kind of wind brought you here. This old man, several guardians were taken aback and hurriedly spoke respectfully. Although they are both protectors in the Spirit Medicine Master Tower, the protectors also have many different identities, just like some in the outside world. The guardians who handle the affairs of ordinary disciples are the lowest in the entire Elixir Master Tower, and the guardians in the core hall like them, although they are better than the guardians in the outside world who handle the affairs of ordinary disciples, are still at the bottom of the guardians. For example, the law enforcement protectors in the 10 halls of the Elixir Master Tower have a higher status, but the highest status is still the close protector of the 4 elders. And this guardian of Quila is a close guardian of Elder Chittick among the 4 elders of the Spirit Medicine Master Tower. He often comes out to handle some things on behalf of Elder Chittick. It's not like they can afford to offend them. Guys, there is a new disciple named Jason in your core hall. He offended Elder Chittick. Elder Chittick ordered you to arrange a training residence for him. Guardian Quila ignored the compliments from several people, rolled his eyes, and directly explained his purpose.